And a similar type of question, Anne, but more in terms of the actual work environments as opposed to the recruitment processes. Again, what are companies doing well, creating inclusivity in the workspace, and where can improvements be made, do you feel?
I think, yeah, inclusive and supportive work environments are probably a combination of both policy and practice. So yes, there is something about making sure your organization has good policies on things like maternity, shared parental leave, flexible working, menopause, but it isn't just about having the policies in place. It's also making sure that those kind of values are actually lived at all levels within the organization, and not just providing or paying lip service to policies, or having, like, special days, but then the rest of the year you disregard the kind of needs of the diverse kind of workforce. I think organizations that do training on unconscious bias, because all of us have unconscious bias that's from our kind of upbringings, cultures that we've grown up in, etc. So I think training around that in organizations makes a difference, so that at least we recognize that sometimes our knee-jerk reaction may be as a result of an internalized bias rather than something that is really the way we want to act, the way we want to behave. What were the other things that I was thinking about there? Flexible remote and hybrid working, I think, makes a big difference. I think that they should be available so that all families with caring responsibilities can kind of work out what works for them. But I think a lack of flexibility still does impact women more at the moment, because as where we kind of stand as a society. So I think that is something that, if organizations are doing that, which helps with inclusivity in their organizations. Again, I think I've already mentioned this, but consider language. So sometimes unconsciously we kind of frame behaviors in different ways, if it's a man behaving in a certain way versus a woman. And the examples that you quite commonly see are something that might be described in a male colleague as assertive behavior is reframed as aggressive or bossy behavior if it's a woman that's behaving the same way. So again, it's just those kind of things about, well, think about what you're thinking. And again, with the unconscious bias, you can't necessarily help thinking it, but gatekeep it before you say it out loud, or you give someone some feedback. Is that actually sort of genuine? And then the other thing that I thought is a sign or a positive thing within inclusive organizations is getting technologists to develop their soft skills alongside their technical skills. So you do sometimes see, yes, I guess it's often said that women's kind of might have stronger communication or team working skills historically, and rather than then encouraging them to move into less technical roles, which plays to those strengths, encouraging technologists to actually work on those skills alongside the technical skills. So there isn't necessarily that push. And I do know of sort of peers who have perhaps come via a boot camp, so they have a lot, they're a career changer, they've got a lot of experience, they've done an amount of technical stuff, but then when they've used their kind of strong communication skills, their team working skills, they've had a kind of steer about developmentally, then perhaps you want to move into a delivery role or an agile coach role. And there's kind of like, well, no, I actually want to do a technical role. So I think that can be an issue. Yeah, and I think we have to recognise that some hostile environments do still persist.
What do you think are the benefits of companies in having diverse technical teams?
Fundamentally, I think diverse technical teams leads to diversity of thought. It is very much harder to put yourself in a position of someone whose lived experience is very different to yours. And I think we, as technology companies, we end up with better solutions if we have that diversity of thought. I think we better represent the users and the real spread of users. And that was one thing I really gained actually from working for the care cooperative, because it was in the care sector. So, just thinking about things like accessibility was a real necessity in that role. But I think as I say, the more diversity, if everybody has come from a very similar background, they're going to approach problems and think about things in a very similar way, which perhaps does exclude people who have had and continue to have very different lived experiences to us. So yeah, fundamentally, I think it's that diversity of thought. And I think there's studies that have shown that financially as well, diverse teams perform better, have better financial results for organizations. So yeah, even if you don't necessarily hold with the more ideological point of view, it's like there's evidence that it makes a difference to the success of a team and of an organization.
And that's very similar to something that I've heard argued as well. A lot of managers may be insistent on experience, somebody coming from the same kind of industry, whereas if that was to open up, different industries approach things in different ways. So again, that's one area to bring in a different type of diversity of thought. And like you say, the same can be applied from people from different backgrounds in life as well, rather than just industry. So yeah, that makes sense. And the final question, Anne, I think we touched on before. A lot of women don't actually know about the career path within software engineering, computer science in general, until it's too late for those kind of early university kind of pathways. What can be done to help improve accessibility and awareness from those earlier stages, would you say?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking about this question. I actually had a conversation with quite a number of my female colleagues and peers, because I think this is actually quite a difficult one. As I say, that kind of like in 30 years, there hasn't been much change. And why is that? What I found quite interesting was when I did a straw poll of my colleagues, most of the women technologists, women software engineers who came in to engineering or computer science or technology from school were actually educated in single sex establishments. So it's by no means a scientific study, but I thought that was just quite an interesting insight, and that the career changes hadn't necessarily been sort of educated in that. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting dilemma. I think challenging views that computers and computer science are just for boys, which you do still see. I've heard people talk about, oh yes, the family got a computer and it went to my brother's bedroom kind of thing, and that kind of thing. So I think challenging things like that, and also I think that assumption that you're only really going to be interested or invited into computing or computer science kind of subjects if you're a gamer or you're good at maths. And I think that's a bit of where the disconnect perhaps happens at sort of the secondary school stage, in that people go, oh no, well, I'm not a gamer, so computers aren't really for me. And yet all of us use computers day in, day out, increasingly more so in our everyday lives, in everything we do, in apps on our phone or whatever else. So I think that opening that up and saying, yes, it's not just for people who are gamers, and actually articulating that, and also don't try and achieve that by pinkifying things. That's one of my real bugbears, is about like, right, we're promoting this to girls, so we'll make it pink, and it's like,
yeah.
Let's not do that. We've moved quite a long way beyond that, I think. I think providing opportunities and invitations, I think asking people to get involved with things in early secondary school so that girls can see technical roles, I think that would probably help. I think there's probably an amount of education of parents in some respects, as well as girls themselves at school, because sometimes parents might be steering to say, oh, are you sure you want to do that? Is that really a subject for a girl? That kind of thing. So I think just making it much more visible. And then the other thing that I think could be of value is upskilling primary school teachers. So, you know, it is still the case that a large percentage of primary school teachers are female, and sometimes they might feel a bit uncomfortable or nervous about technology. So then that perpetuates that kind of myth that it's more for boys. So I think things like that. Yeah, just so that you can start introducing those basics, even if it's just about the way, you know, the way you approach a problem in a kind of algorithmic or programmable way, etc. I think that kind of thinking. And yeah, and I think again, it's about articulating these things. It's about saying these things out loud in your spheres of influence. So challenging the kind of gendering of toys and of clothes. You know, why is this Lego for a boy because it's this kind of thing, and this is for a girl because it's like, you know, I used to get, when my own children were younger, used to get hugely frustrated when you went into a toy shop and you had this vast pink aisle that was girls' toys, and it's like, well, that's no more a girl's toy or a boy's toy than, you know, a computer tool at my desk is not for me because I'm female. So yeah, sorry, that was my rant over on that.
No, I appreciate all the insight, and you know, it's such a kind of relatively high paying sector, you know, with so many kind of jobs available, and seemingly, you know, only kind of gonna go one way, you know, increasing the kind of volume of jobs within that area. So it's a huge kind of missed opportunity of women are missing out on what it has to offer. So yeah, hopefully some things can, you know, change and improve over the next few years, even if they've not necessarily too much over the last 30, but I'm sure we'll see anyway. But great to speak with you anyway, Anne. Really appreciate all of your time and insight, and we'll speak soon.
That's great. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Anne.